Hey guys, welcome back to Algos Explained. My name is David, and in this channel we go over algorithm questions. Today, and we're going to use the platform Edabit. We have been using that one for a while. If you have not tried out this question yourself, go ahead and go to my description of the video, and the link will be there. So go ahead, try it out. If you don't need any help with the question, then just continue solving more problems. And if you do need help or am curious how I solved it, or say you did solve it but you took a long time, come back and watch the video. If not, just continue on with your journey. Yeah, I don't think it has value if you already know how to solve these, especially because the videos that I make are more on the easier levels. And so if you can get it, you can get it. If you can't, then by all means, hopefully I can help you out. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's question is called tuck in array, and this is going to be working with arrays. Create a function that takes two arrays and insert the second array in the middle of the first array. The first question I had was, okay, so it looks like we're going to take some numbers, we're going to force it into the middle of the first parameter. Is the parameter going to always be an odd number, or always an even number, or odd number? And the notes section down here answers that question and also gives us a hint. The first array will always has two elements. So actually, before reading the notes, what I did, I was actually going to test here, and I did notice that all of these had two values here. And it looks like here, these are strings, and so we're not always guaranteed to have numbers. That is one question that would have gone unanswered if we just looked at these examples. And so yeah, that's a good question you could have asked your interviewer. Will we always get numbers? Will we get strings? Will we get different inputs sometimes? Is it possible that the inputs are not even parameters? Will we get null values? The interviewer in that situation, in this case, will probably always say, you can, in your array, there can be other elements like strings and stuff. There probably can also even be nulls, but it will always have just two values. And just having two values will make it very easy for us to solve this question. Even if it had odd values, it wouldn't be too hard. We just have to get the length divided, do +1 or something like that. But let's focus on this question. We're only going to have two, so we just have to look at the first number and the second number. And initially, I was going to probably iterate through the second array and input a number one by one into like this new array we're creating. But it says here, use the spread syntax to solve this challenge. And my guess is that, like, say you're in an interview situation, using the spread syntax is probably the most optimal way, but it is probably not something that the interviewer will tell you to do. They will watch you. They will go ahead and watch you iterate through the second array, adding numbers one by one into this new array that you're building. They will not give you the shortcut. So good thing this is not an interview situation. Good thing that this note just tells us the shortcut. Actually, I didn't know what spread was, so I went over to resources, and sometimes I like to plug in my video here too. For this one, I'm not doing that yet, but spread syntax. Let's go ahead and click on that and see what this is all about. So here it says, I'm just going to read it out loud. Spread syntax, which is the ... allows an iterable such as an array expression or string to be expanded in places where 0 or more arguments or elements are expected, or an object expression to be expanded in places where 0 or more key value pairs are expected. So pretty much, that's kind of hard to understand. I went ahead and looked straight at the example. Let's see. Well, what the heck? These line numbers are wacky. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, that's unfortunate. And let me refresh this page, because that is just terrible to look at. Okay, there we go. I don't know what that was. Function sum, and it looks like this is just a practice function that they built for us. It takes in 3 parameters. That's going to be numbers for our situation, and we have an array here, 1, 2, 3. And it looks like we're going to call this sum, which is the function that the example made for us here, and we use this, that's a spread, is spreading numbers. And so it's pretty much going through the array, and what it does is it iterates through it. And it spreads it, or not, I guess not iterates through it, it spreads it out, hence the spread, and it allows it to become the x, y, and z parameters. This 1, 2, 3, it becomes the x and x, y, z. And so the output eventually becomes 1 plus 2 plus 3. It also says down here that we can, even if our numbers array, say here 1, 2, 3 had more numbers, if that had more numbers than 3, our sum function only takes in 3, right? But it says here that it would be okay. Let's see, where does it say that exactly? If the array contained more than 3 numbers, like maybe a fourth number, then it would still work fine, so it's not going to break, except that the fourth would, except all 4 would be passed, but only the 3 would be used unless you added more arguments in the function. And that's because in JavaScript, after you create a function, even if someone's passing in random parameters, if the function definition doesn't take in those parameters, it doesn't break, it just ignores them. And so this sum here is saying if you wanted to have numbers have 4 elements and use all 4, then you got to make a function that uses all 4. That's pretty much it. And so let's go back to Edabit, and let's go into the code just to make sure we understand. We have our first array is always going to have 2 elements, and we're going to pretty much stick the second array inside it. And it's not going to be like so our output is going to be an array, right? Created a function that takes 2 arrays and inserts the second array in the middle of the first array. It doesn't say clearly, but the output will be an array. We can also verify that by looking at this assert equals or assert similar. Tuck in, that's our function, that's the first array, that's the second, and we see that what they're checking for is that the last element that we're returning is an array. And so, oh yeah, actually, well, it's right here too. We're returning an array and we are doing 1, and we're not just sticking in another array here. We're having each number be a real element of this array. What I mean by that is we're not doing 1 and as the second value being an array and then a number. We're doing 1 and all these numbers and then the last number. So let's go ahead and do that. Aha, look at this. This is kind of interesting. Our first array is multiple arrays in this tuck-in. This is our first parameter right here in the highlighted green. It's actually an array of 2 arrays. And then our second parameter is an array of a single array. That is because we were promised that the first parameter will always be an array of 2 elements, and so our 2 elements is 2 arrays. That's the first array, that's the second array. And then our second parameter is going to be an array of something. Doesn't matter what it is. And our output, it looks like we don't have to worry about splitting up those arrays. We can have inner arrays. And so the first element will be this 1, 2 array. Second element will be whatever was in here because we're trying to stick array 2 inside array 1. And then lastly, close it off with this one. That's a little tricky. Hopefully you guys understood that. If you just look at these numbers and pretend 1 represents this array 1, 2, and this 10 represents the array 5, 6, here we can see that 1 is like this 1, 2, 10 is like the 5, 6, and everything inside is just pretty much what this was, what this array was. And the reason why we're not splitting it up is because it's an array not of numbers. If it was an array of numbers, we split it up, but it's an array of arrays, and so we leave that like that. All right, let's go ahead and answer the question. This one will be, what we're going to do, we're going to actually, let's go ahead and, oh, what the heck? Let's go ahead and return the array straight. We're going to return an array, right? And there's always going to be 2 elements, so let's remember how to index into the elements. The first number, or the first index, is going to be a 0. And we're going to have something in here, and our last one is going to be array 1 of 1. I think maybe I did this wrong here. Yeah, array 1. So at the very least, we're going to have our first element and then our last element, and now we got to figure out the middle. Our middle is going to be the spread of array 2, and that is pretty much how they're going to allow us to this one, we tapped into the first element of array, so we're already outside of the array and we're looking into the elements. this last one is going to likewise be tapping into the array and looking at the elements of the array, the second value. And then this spread is going to allow us to input into here, and it's going to add those combos and everything for us, the elements of array 2. So let's go ahead and check that. This spread operator is pretty darn powerful. Is what's making this problem very easy for us. And this is an easy level question. All right, there we go. So it all passed. An alternative solution, which is kind of, if you didn't know the spread operator, you would probably use a for loop and go through array 2. And as you go through it, you would probably, maybe you created a second array. Maybe that's what you're going to be returning at the very end. Return array 3, if that's kind of your solution. You could even have, actually, perhaps you would have done this for array 1, and then after the first value, have another for loop going into the elements of array 2, inputting it into array 3, like doing the inputs here, array 3, putting the inputs there, and then after all of that's created, returning the array 3. That is the long way, and perhaps a solution you would have attempted and your interview would have let it go. You know, it's kind of one of those things where, hey, do I know how to solve the question? And if I do, it is what it is. If I don't, then in a real life working situation, you can simply Google it, see if there's a simpler way to do things. And the whole point of interviews is to kind of see, okay, does this guy get caught up on this, or does he know how to solve it in some way, fashion, or form? But the whole idea of interviews is truly that there are patterns and easier ways to do things, and it saves time. Say you did this the long way, then you might have taken yourself like 10 minutes. But if you use the spread, it would have cost you like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. And that's more time to solve the harder questions in an interview, or to talk to the interviewer about other things after you're all done with solving all the questions. So anyways, that is about it. We're gonna submit the final for this question and see well, it's gonna work for us. And so that is about it for this question, working with an array. Hopefully that was helpful to you. If you didn't solve it with the spread, again, if you went into the resources tab and opened that documentation, it would explain about the spread operator more. Hopefully this video was useful. If it was, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That would help me. And be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.